and welcome to a beautiful Monday. I am thrilled that you're here with me. It's a gorgeous day, and I'm trying to take advantage of every beautiful day that I can. The Perseid meteor shower was this morning and last night, which unfortunately I missed. I was asleep. Um, but when I do catch those things, it's just amazing and wonderful. So, I am Rita Hickman. I'm a body mind expert. I'm a shiatsu massage therapist. I've been doing this for about 10 years. And I've really specialized and niched down to working with women if they've got childhood stuff that they dealt with. Hey, Janae, good to see you. That they dealt with, but now is coming back up in their life. They're dealing with burnout. They are having a hard time adapting to the world that we live in, which is much different than how we were taught to be. So this morning, hey Dina, great to see you. So this morning, I was looking for topics for the live stream, and I came across this topic, hey Heather, of how to read people's minds during a conflict. Heather just sent me a great smiley face. How to read people's minds during a conflict. And I read this blog article, and it was, about identifying how people are expressing their anger, or their discomfort. And they mentioned in the article that there are four ways. Way number one is people are physically aggressive with you. They're doing something and they're acting it out, like a kid would. The second Oh, here we are. We're clear again. So the second one was when people are verbally aggressive. When they come at you and they're not going to physically touch you, but they're going to call you every name that they possibly can in the book. The third one was where people are angry, but they deal with it constructively. They come to you rationally and logically with a rational argument. And then the fourth one was passive aggressiveness, where people do things kind of underhanded. They're not really on board, so they try to sabotage the project because they're not really, they don't want to disagree with you, but they don't really want to get into a fight either. So I read these things, and the suggestion in the article was basically don't take anything personally, allow the person to do what they need to do, and if they do something that hurts your feelings or upsets you, then you need to clearly but firmly set a boundary. You know what? I used to believe these things. I used to believe that you just needed to rise above, spiritually detach, not let things bother you, and all of that jazz. The problem with that is I was scared of conflict, and I could do a great job identifying what conflict people were going through, but I had a terrible time, valuing and loving myself enough to protect myself. So in this article, they're talking about, don't fight back. They're saying, just let them be, let them get through it. I've tried all of those things in my life. I've been surrounded. I have a great yin and yang. I've got a practice that is filled with women who, are nice. We're all really good to each other. I'm good to them, and they're good to me. And but I do have in my personal life people who have bigger issues, who have anger management issues or conflict issues within themselves. And so I've been working on the topic of dealing with conflict and dealing with people's anger ever since I was small. Because in my household, anger wasn't expressed, it was all suppressed. So it was a constant chronic tension, and everybody walked around on eggshells. And as a kid, that really freaked me out. And I had no idea how conflict or fighting or anger or protecting yourself or boundaries or fighting back or anything. I didn't know anything about that. And we all know what happens when you don't know about something. You tend to obsess about it. It becomes an issue in your life until you start to, you're like, I got to figure this out, because if I don't figure out conflict, it's going to continue to be a problem in my life. And so I used to believe all the great stuff about, you need to have understanding, and you need to have compassion, and you need to see their point of view, and all of that. But the problem that happened with me was that I kept getting beaten up. emotionally, not physically, but emotionally. I kept taking the brunt of things. I kept having to feel all of the hurt and all of the anger radiating off of this person. And I don't care how spiritually detached you are, if you've got any connection with your body or your body mind, you're going to feel it. You're going to feel people's anger and hurt. And because I didn't understand how it worked, because I hadn't been there myself, because I hadn't been that person that would verbally, hurt somebody. Hey, Kathy, that would physically, act out. I could have been passive aggressive. I'll totally give you that. But I wasn't the person that would set those boundaries and that would fight back because I was terrified of it. I was terrified of the consequences because I didn't know how it worked. And so over and over, I would sit there and I would be the punching bag and I would be the patsy for the people in my life. And I would try to rise above. Hey, Kathy Ann. And I would try to rise above and be, emotionally detached and understanding and accepting and caring. The problem with this is, on the one hand, yes, it allows the other person to move their energy. But on the other hand, what it doesn't do is it doesn't help the people that you care about actually evolve as people. Dina says, same when she was growing up, still today, this is a big issue for me. It was a big issue for me for a really long time, Dina, just because I didn't have experience with how to deal with conflict in a healthy way. And then all of the social, all of the personal growth, all the gurus, all the patriarchal male advice was, just don't react and don't let it bother you. Seriously? How can you not let this stuff bother you? How can you not feel like you just went, 10 rounds with Rocky, punched in the gut, in the face? How can you do that? It's not possible. And so what I had to do was learn how to have healthy conflict with other people. I had to learn that it's not as scary as I thought. And you know what the number one thing I learned was that when you're mad and you're expressing yourself, you don't feel it as much. You don't feel all of that anger and all of that hurt. Now, why didn't I do that? Why didn't I express myself before? Because I was terrified, because I didn't know how it would turn out. I didn't know. I had no idea. But I thought, if I get mad, if I express my anger, if I show this stuff, if I fight back, then I'm going to, I don't know what's going to happen, but the world is going to end. Most definitely, the world is going to end, so I'm not going to do that. So how did I find out how to do this stuff? I purposely looked for people who were safe, but also had anger management issues, so that I could practice with them. They were experienced in expressing their anger and not landing in jail, right? And I could practice with them and learn piece by piece, step by step, how to clearly say, I'm not going to do this, and hang up the phone and say it to them. I'm not going to do this, and hang up. Or to fight back, to be angry back and express that stuff. That was a wonderful gift for me. When I started to express my anger, when other people were, irrationally angry and projecting it onto me, I was like, wow, this is kind of fun. This is kind of entertaining. I can see how people get mad. I can see how much fun this could be, because, especially if somebody else takes it and they don't complain and they don't say anything and they're spiritually detached and they understand and they have compassion. It's a total win for the person who's angry. I'm like, wow, that's kind of cool. So that's a big lesson that I learned. I also learned to sometimes let myself go off the deep end. Because you know what? The people that I care about, they don't recognize how deeply they are affecting me, how deeply I feel them, how deeply they hurt me. They don't realize this. And when I fight back, it's kind of a game. They don't hear me because we're fighting, rah, 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 rah. And for them it's common and it's comfortable because it's a game for them. They've been enjoying it, and thanks for coming to play. I appreciate it. And when I started to recognize this is where people were coming from, and I don't have to be as afraid, or I don't have to be as judgmental about people getting angry, and then I can fight back and the world is not going to end. And you know what? Sometimes I can get my way, and I can also set boundaries clearly and quickly, before things turn into an issue that I don't want to deal with. I used to try to manipulate the situation. I used to try to say, oh, what can I do or what can I say to calm them down, to make them feel better, to make them stop. Oh, I've got a beautiful blue and black butterfly that just landed right next to me. Very cool. So I used to ask these things, what can I do to manipulate the situation? How can I make them feel better? How can I make them happy so that they stop? When I took away my judgmentalism about anger because I'd been on the other side, hey Tara, because I'd been the one that's like, yeah, let's go. Let's have at it. Let me tell you everything that I'm thinking. When I started to do that and took away my fear and my judgmentalism about conflict and anger, I could read it much faster and I could say, you know what, this isn't the experience I want to have. And for now, I'm going to let them have their anger someplace else. I don't have to expose myself to it because they'll be fine. They'll get over it no matter what it is. I don't have to sit there and take it and get punched in the face. And if I want the experience of expressing my own emotions, I can do that too. But the cool thing is a lot of stuff comes out in conflict. We say a lot of things, some that we mean and some that we don't. But what happens is we express the deeper part of ourselves that we might not have expressed before. And the person that's comfortable with conflict and anger, and the one that's usually coming in and, assaulting everybody else, they're so wrapped up in how they feel. They're so self-absorbed in their own feeling. And then they justify, expressing it this way by saying, well, they didn't complain or they did fight back. They let it happen, so it must be okay. They must be okay with it. And they're fine and they go on their merry way, never the wiser, knowing that they have very poor social skills, knowing that when you pick fights with everybody all the time, you're probably not going to have any close relationships. You're not going to have any intimacy, and you're going to end up feeling really lonely and abandoned and wonder why people aren't there for you. Tara says, I feel like anger comes up with people when they want others to change and fit their worldview. Yeah, anger does come up because there's this inner conflict. I want you to look a certain way, and I'm going to bully you until you look the way that I want you to look. Well, as we know about bullies, a lot of times when you stand up to them after the initial conflict, they back down. One, because they're not used to people standing up to them and being clear and concise, not just going crazy and off the deep end and saying, you do this and you do that. That's totally not helpful. But when you say, you know what, I'm not talking to you until you can be nice to me. I'm not communicating with you until you can have an honest, open and caring communication with me. Hey, Marva, I'm not going to engage with you in that way. And right now, this is the boundary that I'm setting. I'm not going to answer your phone. I'm not going to answer my phone. I'm not going to answer my text. Hey, Gordana, until you can treat me with a level of respect that I deserve, that I need. Tara says, I've actually said that to someone when they tried to project their issues onto me. Yeah. It's really kind of cool when you develop a couple friendships with people who are very comfortable with anger, because it's like a practice round. It gives you practice for things. They're not going to do something that's over the line because they may say things or they may do things which are inappropriate, mean, and unkind, but they're not going to do anything that's really damaging in the long run, that can't be fixed, within yourself. Oh, good. I'm glad you love this message. I'm glad you need this message today, Tina. So they're good practice. They're good sparring partners for the rest of the world, for getting comfortable with how to deal in this very angry, mean, conflicted world that we live in, and how to recognize anger fast, how to not diffuse it, because you can't necessarily diffuse it, but set boundaries for yourself of how you want to be treated, and then stick to those boundaries. Decide for yourself what you want in your life. Tara says she surrounds herself with kind people. Yes, it's a great way to fortify yourself, to surround yourself with other nice people, because you're not going to be able to avoid people who've got a lot of internal issues that they don't know how to deal with. We're surrounded by them. They're going to be our family, they're going to be our spouses, they're going to be our friends, they're going to be acquaintances, they're going to be our clients. They're not going to know how to understand anger. And as long as we're afraid of anger and conflict and we don't have a handle on it, then we can't help them. We can't assist them in understanding the effect that they're having on people and how to do it in a better way. When we set boundaries, it helps the people in our life feel safe. The people who actually care about us feel safe because it tells them, I'm not going to set you up to be a victimizer. Great lesson when I was learning shiatsu. I had a guy that was working on me and he was kind of a creeped me out. And I said to him, you know what, I have to stop this. It's not you, it's me, but I can't continue. It's making me really uncomfortable. And so I stopped it, and then I went to my mentor, and I said, what do I do about this? And she said, when you don't set boundaries, when you allow yourself to be a victim, like this blog I was talking about said, they said, well, detach and have understanding and blah, blah, blah. But when you allow yourself to be a victim, you turn the other person into a victimizer. You turn someone that you care about, someone who has this great ability to grow and evolve as a human being. And we're saying to them, I'm going to turn you into a victimizer. I'm going to turn you into a bully by letting you do this to me and not protecting myself and not telling you and not fighting back. I'm turning you into a bad person. Now, is that really what we want to do with the people that we care about? The people that matter to us, or even people who are in our lives? Do we want to teach them how to be, that it's okay, and that they teach them how to have bad social skills? Merva says, yes, it's important you're clear about what you're no longer willing to tolerate. Set clear boundaries. Yeah, and the key is to find it quick, to notice it quick, decide the experience that you want to have, and then say, you know what? When you feel better, contact me. When you have, when you can communicate in a way, because I can't hear you right now, then come talk to me. When you let people know what you're really thinking and feeling, it helps bring them out of their anger, or at least plants the seed in their head, so that they don't keep turning on that same hamster wheel of anger and frustration, that there's another way to do this. You're not rejecting them, but you're open to having a conversation with them, but only if they can treat you with the level of respect that you deserve. And when you encourage people to treat you better, they develop better friendships. They get closer to people. Their lives get better. Because now they know someone took the time to tell them, I love you and I care about you, and this is unacceptable. But when you're ready, we can talk about it. But it's hard when people are coming at you, and it's hard because we feel their anger. So the key is to catch it early, catch it fast, and course correct quick. Before it becomes a thing. Before you get sucked in and now, you're calling each other names, or now you're hurt, or storming away, or slamming a door. Now, all those things are great, but they're much better for you if you do them when you're not out of control. When you say, I think today I'm going to slam a door, just to see what it does, in the middle of this conflict. You can play with these things. You can play with emotional reactions, especially if it's somebody that's relatively safe. You can play with this stuff and see how it turns out, because that's how we learn. You have to practice conflict in order to get good at conflict. And when you're good at conflict, you understand conflict. And when you understand conflict, you can use it to your benefit, and now conflict doesn't bother you nearly as much. Hey, Nicole. So that's my advice for today. Oddly enough, find somebody to pick a fight with. No, not really. Just kidding. Don't find somebody to pick a fight with. However, find somebody that needs a boundary set, and watch for it. And while you're still maintained and in your center, set that boundary. It could be that somebody always eats your lunch out of the fridge. Go to them and say, hey, I totally get it, but it really pisses me off when you eat my lunch out of the fridge. And if you continue to eat my lunch out of the fridge, then I am going to, not have my lunch in the fridge anymore, because because this isn't working. Yeah, and I'm not going to be nice to you, and I'm going to be mad at you. Hey, Deb, and and this isn't going to work out. So make your choice. You can keep doing this, or you can stop. So today, your homework assignment today is to find somebody that needs a boundary. You know, a light boundary, not a big one. As we always say, don't go for the big stuff because then you'll fail miserably. You'll feel like a loser. It'll never work out. But start with something small. Go set a boundary with somebody today that is easy, small, might even take them by surprise. They probably deserve it because they're used to snarking on everybody else, and just see how it turns out. They might get angry and frustrated and say things back, and you do this, but because you're coming from you, because you're calm and centered when you do this, you're like the one in control. And you can be like, oh, well, thank you for feeling that way. And if you can't be nice to me while you talk to me, then I need to go. It's so much fun to have conflicts when you're the one that's not being blindsided. So don't go blindside somebody, but set a rational, reasonable boundary with somebody that deserves it and start practicing these things. Because it's with the feedback, when you get the feedback, that you start getting better at it. You start getting stronger, you understand it, and it no longer knocks you on your butt when it happens. Okay? So, that's your homework today. Set a boundary with somebody, and that's it. Like, love, share, comment on other people's comments, because that's how we get this word out into the world, and that's how we build this tribe, okay? And I would really personally appreciate it. I think that's it. Have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.